Hey, what's going on? My name is Avi. Thank you so much for joining me today for another installment of Six Pack Abs Secrets and Myths Uncensored. Last time we debunked the myth that whole foods and processed foods have the same effect when eating a diet to try and get a six pack. In other words, if you eat 2,400 calories of whole foods versus 2,400 calories of Twinkies, are those the same thing biologically in the body? No, they are absolutely not. However, a natural question to ask in response to that is, do I need to eat all whole foods in order to get a six pack? And that is also a myth. No, it is not true that you need to eat all whole foods to get a six pack. It's just that it can be beneficial, like we talked about in the last video. It can be beneficial for the reasons that it promotes more satiety, so that psychologically can make it easier to adhere to your diet. And also, the nutrients themselves are processed differently, right? Protein has a higher thermogenic effect of food. When you eat higher amounts of fiber, you will literally be pooping out more calories or less calories will actually be absorbed into your body. More will be pooped out and end up in the toilet as opposed to around your waistline. And also omega-3 fatty acids specifically are preferentially used for cognitive repair and function as opposed to burning for energy, which is different than other fats, right? So between protein, omega-3s, and fiber, if you're eating more whole foods, which are just going to tend to have more of those three things, those foods will be treated in the body differently than carbs and fat and just all the other shit that generally comprises processed foods. So you will actually end up absorbing less calories, which is going to promote your weight loss efforts. But that said, it is totally not required to eat all whole foods to get a six pack. In fact, it may even be detrimental in some circumstances. Let's take an extreme example of like Michael Phelps or some other Olympic athlete at the height of their prime, right? How much are these guys burning in a day, or women? How much are they burning in a day, right? If you're doing many hours of vigorous workouts to promote like competence in your craft, to improve proficiency in your craft at that high of a level, you may be burning anywhere from 6 to 12,000 calories a day for your metabolic rate. Now, I don't know about you, but the idea of eating 12,000 calories, or hell, even 9,000 calories of whole foods, bruh, think about how painful that would be if you were doing that with like fruits and vegetables and lean meats and eggs. Bruh, you would be throwing up. I mean, it would just be damn near disgusting. Even if you could get all the food down, which, let's get real, most of us probably would not even be able to get down half of that. I mean, hell, for me, my metabolic rate with my level of activities are right around like 3,500 a day, and I even have a hard time doing whole foods, all whole foods for 3,500. I mean, I'm pretty full on that. So you can imagine 9,000 calories. Like, that's literally absurd to do that, right? That's an incredible amount of food to eat that much just on whole foods. You're going to feel horrible. And even if you do get it all down, you might end up throwing it up. And if you don't throw it up, your workouts are going to suffer, right? Your performance is going to deteriorate. So in that case, I would actually argue that for that person, yeah, you're still going to want, of course, some amount of whole foods. You got to get your nutrients in. And also, whole foods are just so satisfying, dude. When you love them, they make you feel good. But to get up to 9,000 calories, yeah, probably going to be helpful to have a McFlurry or two, right? Like, probably going to be helpful to have, or even maybe like, I don't know, what's a processed food that's like really, really high in calories and like super low volume? I don't know, maybe like a Pizookie from BJ's. I fucking love those things. But yeah, it's going to be super duper helpful to just have like some amount of, yeah, like very low volume, very high calorie foods, which usually are going to be processed. I guess if you're talking Whole Foods, maybe dates. Like, dates are super high calorie, but even still, dates are a joke compared to, yeah, a Pizookie, right? Like, little tiny Pizookie is like 1,600 calories or something like that. It's just astronomical. So in that case, and of course, you're probably thinking, Avi, why is that even relevant? I'm not an Olympic athlete. Most people aren't. But you don't have to be an Olympic athlete for that concept to still be relevant to you. If your metabolic rate after your activity level is somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 calories, that's probably going to be a lot to consume just in whole foods alone. And depending on your appetite, your just food tolerance in general, even if your metabolic rate's in the 2,000s, you still might find it difficult to truly do that with high volume, low calorie foods like cabbage, cauliflower, lean meats, etc. So I would just say this is something to experiment with over time. You may very well be cool with doing all whole foods. I will say, me personally, the way I break it down, and this is kind of like my approach in The Art of Binge Eating, my book, I usually do 4 days of like really, really tight eating, and then I'll have a binge day. Or not a binge day, but like another day of tight eating with a binge on top. So there's different kinds of binge eating. There's like additive binge eating, and then there's like replacement binge eating. Additive would be like you have your whole day of food and then you binge on top of that. Whereas replacement binge eating would be like you eat your breakfast and lunch, for example, but instead of eating your normal dinner or what would be normal dinner, you just binge instead. Or replacement, you replace it with the binge. You replace the dinner with a binge. So I'm more of an additive binger, meaning I'll have like 4 days of really tight eating, and then that 5th day I'll do another day of tight eating, but then I'll have the binge on top of that. And yeah, so all of my eating other than binges is pretty much like all whole foods. I just don't like to have processed foods in general on my like really clean days because they just don't make me feel that good. And to be honest, like I really need to feel full, like physiologically in my stomach. You know, I need to feel that to be psychologically satiated. And of course, it's very hard to accomplish that when you have any number of processed foods in your diet. So, but for you, it might be different, right? I would encourage you to experiment, man. Maybe like get 90% of your calories from whole foods, 10% from processed. But point is, you're going to find what works for you. You do not, and to debunk the myth, you do not need to do all whole foods in order to get a six pack. You can do whatever you need to do that works for you, that gets you in a caloric deficit. That's the ultimate goal, is to get in a caloric deficit in the most psychologically tolerant or way that's psychologically tolerable for you, right? It's just, because dieting sucks. Let's get real, man. Losing weight fucking sucks. It's not fun to limit your food intake. So it's just about making it as like not shitty as possible, right? Like reducing the aversion to it as much as you can. And that's ultimately going to come down to finding the right balance of whole foods versus processed foods for you. Let me know how it goes for you in the comments. And if you like this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more content. We always got more coming in the future. And I really hope you found this video helpful. Honestly, like I'm so curious to hear what works for people. You know, is it 100% whole foods, 80%, 90%? Yeah, man, let me know. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy. Well, what time of day are we at? We're getting close to dinner. We got sunset coming here in like a couple hours or so. So whatever your dinner is, I hope you really enjoy it. Have a great evening, rest up, connect with your loved ones, and I'll see you soon. Peace.